So, this is what if Naruto trained in boxing slash MMA. Or just, yeah, boxing and MMA. So, everything is semi-normal. But here's what happens. So, instead of Minato using the Reaper Death Shield to seal the Nine Tails inside of Naruto, he used the Reaper Death Seal similar to how Hiruzen had used it and seals it into himself before dying. And then Kushina would die. But so there was this ancient demon that lived around before even the time of Madara and Hashirama. And he was looking for a vessel. And as he'd be floating above the Lee village, as it was in ruins and flames, he would see the boy. And he would go down to the boy. And this boy happened to be Naruto. Oh, I gotta say one more thing. So Naruto is an Uzumaki Uchiha hybrid with, yeah. So then, sorry. The demon by the name Mal would levitate down towards the boy and inspect him. He would then see that the boy has a lot of chakra, and he kind of likes this. So he ends up making the boy his vessel and goes inside of the boy's body, manifesting himself there. So now we're going to do a time skip to when Naruto is 5. So no one really cares about, they don't hate him, but they don't really, he's just some random kid to them pretty much. So he still has his friends, Shikamaru and Choji, and he can actually hang out with them since no one's going to tell them, their parents aren't going to try to make them stay away from him. So Naruto would be at the library, and he would be looking for some books, as he's a little bit more interested in reading, and he's a lot smarter. And he would stumble upon 2 books. One of them would have 3 single letters on it. The letters would be M, M, A. And he would pick up the book, and the other book would have the word boxing on it. And he would also pick up that book as well. And he would go to, rent the books pretty much. And the librarian would say, you can keep them. No one really used those books anyway. So just consider it a gift. And Naruto would thank the librarian before leaving. He would then open the book with the title MMA. And when he opened the book, he realized that it stood for. And he would start looking at the pictures in the book, and would be various different moves that would be used in UFC or just basically mixed martial arts moves, such as, a lot of side kicks, there's roundhouses, there's, teaching them how to perfect the hook, and they're even teaching them how to perfect the straight punch. So he would practice over and over all these different moves. And he would get pretty good at it after 1 year. He still hadn't perfected it, but he would then, take a break from MMA, and he would read the boxing book for the first time. And it would teach him the perfect stance to be in to defend from all sides. And it would, you know, he would learn how, like, he would actually start trying to guard his face, so it would be easier to block attacks that are launched at his face or at his torso. And he also learned to weave attacks and other things. So while another year passes and Naruto's 7 and he has trained in boxing, and he has an idea. So he goes to the store and buys one of those tennis ball shooters, but instead of having to shoot tennis balls, he would actually load it up with rocks. And he feels if he was in if he knew it could actually hurt him, he would do a lot better. And he would get into his boxing stance, putting his right foot in front of his left, hunching his back a little bit forward, and guarding his face. He would then turn it on with the button in his hand and put the button on the ground. And he would start weaving back and forth, dodging the rocks that would be blasted at him. But they started getting faster as the speed gradually started going up on the tennis ball shooter. And it started getting a lot harder. And one of them even hit his ear. But he kept going until all the rocks were gone. And while he was dodging the rocks, when they went on the fastest setting, he actually got hit on the forehead. But he stayed strong. And then everything started seeming like it was moving slower. And it was a lot easier for him to dodge the rocks. That was him activating his Sharingan. But he didn't notice. He just thought he was just getting better. And then he would load the rocks back into the tennis ball shooter. And he would do it again 3 more times. Then, once again, after the 4th time, he would load the tennis ball shooter with rocks. But this time, when the rocks were launched at him, he would punch at them. And some of the rocks would break, and some of the rocks would just be sent flying. And then he would start reading the 2 books again. And I'm going to skip to when he was 10. And when he was 10, he was at school, and they were doing sparring matches. And he was pitted against Sasuke. So, in their match, Naruto gets into his boxing stance. And Sasuke's confused, as he hasn't seen a stance like that. But Sasuke would throw a kick at Naruto, but Naruto would just weave under it. Sasuke would then be confused and throw a punch, which Naruto would just weave back. Sasuke would then start throwing up barrage of punches and kicks, but Naruto would just be weaving under all, or weaving back, and dodging every single attack. And then Sasuke would throw a punch at Naruto, and Naruto would weave under it onto his left side, cock back his arm, and deliver a left hook to Sasuke's rib. And then he came up and delivered a right hook straight to Sasuke's face, knocking him out. Iruka was surprised, as he's never seen that stance before either. And he assumed Naruto to be at the bottom of the class, because Naruto never does his work. And he doesn't seem to be that smart. But from here on, Naruto would actually start acting how he really is. And he would soon be at the top of his class. Well, no, actually, he would be second best, because he's still not good with ninjutsu. But after this, one day, Naruto, he's walking, and he walks past an outfit in a store. And he likes it a lot, because this is the outfit. And since he has black hair, so it looks a lot better instead of with his yellow hair. So he ends up going in the store and he buys the outfit. And as he leaves, he goes off to the forest to train. And while he's training, he would hear a twig snap, and he would turn around and launch a kuna at a tree. And at the tree, he would see a girl with white eyes. It would be Hinata. She was a girl in his class. And he would ask her why she was spying on him. But she wouldn't say anything. So he would say, well, while you're here, you want to train? And she would accept his offer, seeing as this would be a way to get closer to Naruto. And she would actually, stay up and she wouldn't faint. And they'd be training. And over the course of 1 year after their training, Hinata has become one of the greatest Hyugas in her clan. At the moment, at least. Being able to best any child and some adults. The only other child that's better than her in the Hyuga clan is Neji. And one day while she and Naruto were training, decided to spar. She would activate her Byakugan and get into her stance. And Naruto would get into his boxing stance. And she would dash forward at him and deliver a palm to his arm, which Naruto had blocked. It was intended for his chest. Then Naruto would take a side step to the right, and then throw a straight punch with his left hand, which would be dodged by Hinata. Hinata would then redirect his arm the other way, and then try to palm him straight in the face. But he would dodge by moving his head, and then he would deliver one of the strongest uppercuts straight to her chin, which would send her flying in the air. But then she would hold her hands out and yell, "Gale Palm," as Naruto would be sent back. But he would catch himself before looking up to see Hinata standing over him, preparing to do the 4 trigrams, 32 palms. And she would start palming at Naruto, and Naruto would concentrate, and he'd start weaving all of her palms, just dodging the attacks like they were nothing. And then, when her last palm would be thrown at him, he would duck under it and move to the right. Then he would deliver a knee to her stomach and kick her with a side kick, sending her back. And before she can regain her footing, he would run up to her and deliver a flying knee to the chin, knocking her out. But he would stay with her and eat next to her until she woke back up. And when she did, he would offer her some food. And then they would just talk for the rest of the day before she had to go home. Now, gonna time skip to when they're 12. So, Naruto is walking to school. And he starts to hear a voice in his head. It's very deep, and it seems like it's talking to him. He would ask the voice, "Who are you?" And the voice would say, "I am Mal." "Where are you?" Naruto would say. And Mal would reply with, "I'm inside your head, I guess. More, your mind." Naruto would say, "Well, how do I see you?" He said, "Just concentrate, then you'll see me." And as Naruto would then appear in a room, it wasn't like his mindscape though. It was just pitch black with a doorway that was white as snow. And the door would open and the room would be filled with white, but the door would turn black as he would see a man walk through the door. This would be the man. As he would stare at Naruto and Naruto would stare at him, they'd just be standing there for a moment. "Well, you might be cold." And then Mao would put his jacket over Naruto's arms, and Naruto would say, "It's not cold in here, and plus I'm wearing a jacket myself." And this would just make Mao laugh. As Naruto started exiting his mindscape, his eyes turned black like this, with his eye, like the pupil being white, and his hair started turning white as well. And he felt like he couldn't control his body anymore. This was part of Miles' plan to see if the boy could handle his power. As he put like some of his chakra into the jacket, so when Naruto had it put on him, he would be filled with some of Mao's chakra. And Mao will start laughing as Naruto was holding up pretty good for himself. And Mao would put his arm forward to where Naruto once was and pretend like he's picking something up. And as he lifted his hand, a jacket would appear in his arms. And Naruto would return to normal. He would say, "So, he is worthy." I knew I could put faith in him. And Naruto would just brush it off as if nothing happened. And over the course of, the time he spent training with Hinata, he actually learned a couple of jutsu. Let me pull him up. He learned the fire style Fighter Dragon. And then he learned Water Spout, which launches a powerful beam of water. And after the water hits you, or even if it misses, it makes the floor around you like silky and hard to stand on. And one wrong move, you could slip. And the reason he uses this is it helps him in combat, as he's very good in balance because he's been practicing boxing and MMA, which sometimes some of it requires balance. So he's pretty good at balancing on the silk. And he also learned water style Shark Rush, which a bunch of water sharks would chase after you. And the last jutsu he learned is a lightning style jutsu, and it would be called Lightning Bolt, when you put his hands together and launch a massive lightning bolt. So when he's at school, everything would pretty much go the same, where they do the Shadow Clone Jutsu, but Naruto actually does it. And he does it pretty flawlessly too. So he ends up passing. And everyone gets their same teams. Besides, Sakura is actually on Hinata's team. And Hinata's on Sakura's team, or Team 7. So, when Kakashi comes late as normal, he stares at the group. And Naruto doesn't pull a prank because he doesn't really care about pranks. And then he would take them up to the roof. And while they're up at the roof, he sees Naruto and he sees Sasuke, and they're giving off pretty chilling vibes. But Hinata's, being a little cheerful. Like, she has a smile on her face, while Naruto's just sitting back, minding his business, and Sasuke's in that, pose, getting ready to talk about how he's ready to kill Itachi and whatnot. Naruto would say, "My name is Naruto Uzumaki," or Uchiha, and this would make Sasuke, surprised. He's like, "I go by either, but you can just call me Naruto. I like ramen, and I like training, and I dislike bullies and people that abandon their friends." Then Hinata would say, "I'm Hinata Hyuga. She also likes training, but only really training with Naruto. And she pretty much dislikes the same thing as him." And Sasuke says the same thing. So Kakashi would tell them about the bell test and whatnot. And instead of all of them, splitting up on their own ways, Naruto and Hinata actually go off to the forest. And Sasuke is confused. So he would follow them. And he would then see them sparring. And they're pretty strong. Hinata's almost at his level. And Naruto has soared above him. So Sasuke would ask if he could join in on training. But he would say, "It's not like I care. You can say no if you want." Wanting to keep up his composure. But Naruto would let him train with them. And all three of them would spar together at the same time. In the end, Hinata was laid down, tired, and exhausted. Sasuke was on one knee, exhausted, and Naruto was sitting down against a tree, exhausted as well. Naruto would say, "No fair. You both were targeting me." And Sasuke would say, "Oh, shut up. It's a spar after all. Never said it was going to be fair." And this would actually make Naruto laugh a bit. And Hinata would just be, trying to catch her breath. And now they would all go home to their homes. And they would go to sleep for the next day. And now, next day, Naruto and Hinata come late because, well, they actually both arrived there first. But they realized that, no one was there. So they decided to go train and wait. But they weren't too far. They were close enough to where they would see Kakashi if he made it there. So when they seen Kakashi had made it there, they would walk out from the forest and greet the two. And then they would be told on how they were late. And they would say, "Well, actually, you guys were late. We got here before YouTube got here. So we just decided to train in the forest." And Kakashi would be kind of surprised. But he would hold up the bells and tell them about the bell test. And when he would say, "Only 2 of you can pass," Naruto would cut him off and say, "That doesn't make sense. Every ninja team has 3 genin and 1 jonin leader. So there's no way you're going to send one of us back. There's a different meaning. I just don't know what it is yet." And Kakashi would be pretty surprised at how smart Naruto is. And he would nod his head and say, "Correct. But will you be able to find out?" As he would say go and disappear in a cloud of smoke. And Naruto would grab Hinata and grab Sasuke, and they would jump into the trees. And he would say, "So now that we know that none of us are going to get sent back, we don't have to be greedy about who's going to get the bells. So, any plans?" Sasuke would say, "How about we just rush in at him and try to catch him off guard? I'm pretty sure we're all strong enough to do that. There's no way he can beat all 3 of us." Naruto would say, "Well, what if he is, though? I don't want to take any chances. So, I'll go in as a distraction and to gauge his power. Then, if I need help, Hinata, you come in. And Sasuke, you'll be like the last line of attack, I guess you can say. Trying to catch him off guard if me and Hinata ended up getting knocked down by him or defeated. You got it?" Sasuke didn't really like this plan as he didn't get much action, but he would nod his head anyway, as it was the only surefire plan they had. So Naruto would jump down from the tree with a kunai in his mouth and 2 in his hands. He had slid down his mask so he could hold it in his mouth. Then he would disappear and dash at Kakashi, which he had found near some other trees. And he would then swing his kunai at him, which Kakashi would dodge. And then he would kick Kakashi out of the way of the trees, and he was in the open field. as he would throw the two kunai in his hands at Kakashi, which Kakashi would dodge easily. And then Naruto would spit out the kunai in his mouth, pull up his mask, and catch the kunai before clashing kunais with Kakashi. They would both slash at each other, but their attacks would be blocked by one another until Naruto would throw his kunai and then, get into a stance, and Kakashi would be confused, and he would say, "I know this stance. That's boxing." And Kakashi would then start copying Naruto's stance. And Naruto would be weirded out, but he wouldn't let it get to him. And he would say, "So, I guess Kakashi knows boxing, so I guess I won't use that." As he would then jump forward with a flying knee, catching Kakashi off guard and hitting him on his chest. Kakashi would then say, "What? I thought he was going to use boxing." As Naruto would then kick Kakashi's leg, making him fall down. And when he fell down, he would lead with an elbow straight to Kakashi's face. Then he would start slamming both of his fists onto Kakashi, but Kakashi would then substitute, turning into a log. And Kakashi would think to himself, that was MMA he was using. But he got into a boxing stance. Was this used purposely to psych me out? Or was this just a last minute change? Naruto would then locate Kakashi and yell, "Fire style, fire dragon," launching a fireball in the shape of a dragon's head. And Kakashi would say, "Water style, water dragon jutsu," as the attacks would collide. But this made the perfect smoke screen for Naruto to appear behind Kakashi and kick him out of the tree. Kakashi would then say, "You're strong," as Naruto walked out of the smoke. And he would then start, he would stop holding back. And Naruto would get into his MMA stance this time, not getting low to the ground, and having his hand up near his face, but spread wider out. And he got into a sloppier stance where he was just standing there, leaving so many open points of attack. So Kakashi would dash at him and throw a punch at him, but Naruto would just use the shoulder roll technique, and the punch would slide up his shoulder, missing his face. And then he would get low to the ground and hit Kakashi with a right hook. Kakashi would say he's mastered the technique so much that he can switch between the two on the fly. He's really amazing. And then Kakashi would say to himself, "I'm done trying to beat you at your own game," as he would just get into his regular fighting stance, and they'd start fighting. He would throw a bunch of kicks at Naruto, but Naruto would weave under all his attacks. And Naruto would start throwing a flurry of punches so fast that they looked like little blurs. But Kakashi would be dodging these as well. And then Naruto would jump back and launch himself off of a tree. And he would clash fists with Kakashi. Then Hinata would emerge, yelling, "4 trigrams, 32 palms," as she would then start palming at Kakashi's chakra points. But Kakashi would say, even if a ninja doesn't have ninjutsu or genjutsu, he still has taijutsu, as he would dash forward at Hinata and get ready to hit her with a devastating gut punch. But Naruto jumped in the way, blocking the attack and getting sent back into some trees. Now it was just Hinata for the moment, before Naruto was able to recover and start fighting again. And while they're fighting, he would think to himself, "Where's Sasuke? There's no way he got scared, right?" Kakashi would then look down and then look back up to see something covering his eyes from the sun. And he then realized it was Sasuke wielding a kunai. He would say, "Looks like he didn't get scared," as he would jump back, just barely dodging Sasuke's kunai. And then Naruto would jump off Sasuke's back and deliver a devastating kick to the top of Kakashi's head. And then Hinata would wrap her arms around Kakashi, and Sasuke would slide under Kakashi and Hinata's legs, snagging the bells. Kakashi would congratulate them on their teamwork, as that was the whole point of the exercise. And they would all, nod at each other. Ooh, crap. We're good. Nod at each other, showing, you did good, pretty much. That's pretty much what they were saying. And Kakashi would just walk away. And Naruto would hear the deep voice in his head again. And he would say, Kakashi was holding back against you, right? Naruto would then go into his mindscape by focusing in on the voice. And the room would be pitch white. Bright white with the door black as night. And he would turn around to see Mao behind him. He would say, "What do you mean he was holding back?" Well, Kakashi Hatake, the copy ninja, the wielder of the Sharingan, he didn't even use the Sharingan against you. Well, I guess he technically did when he copied your stance. But he realized he couldn't beat you at your own game, as not even he could use boxing and MMA at the same time. Well, how about you challenge him again and tell him to use his full power? Well, he won't use his full power against the student unless his student was strong enough to attack against him. And then Mao would disappear from Naruto's sight, and he would say, as he places his hand on Naruto's shoulder, "You are," sending a lot of chakra, of his chakra, into Naruto. But it still wasn't even over a quarter of his own reserves. And Naruto would then go through the same transformation, but he would get a bit buffer. His eyes would be black as night with white pupils, and his hair would be pure white, and horns would grow out of his head. And his whole outfit would just be black and white, with the green being black, the laces being white, the glove being white, and then the sleeve, like these sleeves right here, being white, and the pants being white as well. With the shoes being black, well, this part stayed black, and the shoes pretty much stay the same. As he would, fly off at pretty high speeds as well. And he would appear behind Kakashi, and Kakashi would say, who are you? And he would start to sense Naruto's faint chakra. He would say, "Naruto?" And Naruto would just look at him. And then, in a blink of an eye, not even Kakashi could see him. He was in front of him, and he would punch him in the gut and kick Kakashi away. As he got into his boxing stance, Kakashi would start trying to fight Naruto, but he couldn't even land any attacks on him. Kakashi would think to himself, "Who is this boy? He's nothing like before. He's stronger. He's deadlier." As he would then throw a kick at Naruto, and Naruto would use the same combo he used on Sasuke by going under his leg, hitting him with a left hook to the ribs, and then a right hook to the face, sending Kakashi into a tree. Then he would hold his hand up, and a black ball of energy would appear, and he would launch it at Kakashi. Kakashi would just narrowly dodge it, but then Naruto appeared behind him, catching the orb, and then slamming it into Kakashi's back, sending him flying. Naruto would then start walking up towards Kakashi as a white light would appear behind Naruto. And then he would reach back, grab it, and it would take shape of a sword in his hand. And then into a spear. As Naruto would make it float into the air, it would break off into many little spears. And he would launch them at Kakashi. Kakashi, having no other choice, he would pull up his headband, revealing his 3 Tomoe Sharingan, pull out his kunai, and block the spears. As Naruto, in Mao's voice, would say, "Yes, Finally, you showed off that Sharingan of yours. Well, now the real fight begins. As they would start going hand in hand, just fighting. None of them being able to land a hit. But every time Naruto punched, his punches would become stronger. And Kakashi wasn't able to keep up realized he wouldn't be able to keep up as the fight dragged out any longer. So he would kick Naruto in the chin, and then say water style, water dragon jutsu. If Naruto would be hit and get sent flying into the air, Kakashi would jump up behind him, wrap his arms around him, and start spinning into the ground, doing the primary lotus, and slamming Naruto straight into the ground, snapping the horns, and breaking the link between. But he would break the link between Naruto and Mao. And Mao would, be angry, but he would just brush it off, keeping his composure. And Naruto would wake up in a hospital, as he had taken quite a bit of damage from the fall. And Kakashi would be there to greet him. And he would say, "That was a heck of a fight you put up." And Naruto would be confused that he couldn't remember what happened. And Kakashi would just walk out. That's what I'm going to end this off. Hope you guys liked it. Other than that, peace.